Welcome, everybody, back to Radical Content, an interview podcast. It's been a minute. I know we've had some fun with some solo podcasts, but we're so excited to talk to an awesome rock star social media professional who's also a friend who I've been able to develop a relationship with and talk about her career. And I'm so excited for Jenn to be here. Jenn, thank you for joining Radical Content. I think we should have recorded our last chat. I think that would have been a good part. Maybe it was too personal, but it was still professional, and it would have been such a good chat, and I think we'll get into some of those things today, but I'm so pumped that you're here today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, so if you don't know Jenn, you should. She's a great follow on LinkedIn. She's very plugged in. We're going to talk about how active she is on LinkedIn. All the whole social media community, I feel like, is like so active on LinkedIn. I feel like we're like keeping that platform up a little bit. But she spent a ton of time at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville. Now she's at South Bend International Airport, which I know sounds like an interesting jump, and we're going to talk about it. But she's doing amazing, cool, fun stuff there. Just I think one of the better social creative strategists I've had a chance to meet. And so, how's that for an intro? Good enough, Jen?
That is amazing. Thank you so much for all your kind words.
All right, so we're gonna start a little bit. I was reading some of your stuff on LinkedIn and kind of pulling a few things out, but I want to talk first a little bit about your story and kind of what you were able to build at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville. What were you most proud of? Just to kind of give people a little bit of kind of your past, and then we'll kind of then get into the airport and a bunch of other stuff about the whole industry.
Yeah, well, I definitely just cherish my time that I spent at Opry Entertainment Group, which is the parent company of the Grand Ole Opry. They have several other entertainment brands as well. And it was really what I consider to be a once in a career opportunity. When I moved to Nashville, which I was there for almost 10 years, I loved the Opry. It was actually my first trip I ever went to in Nashville. The first night I was ever there, I went to see Carrie Underwood at the Grand Ole Opry during CMA Fest week, and so that became a little tradition for me, which I am hoping to continue again this year, but
What's the best show you've ever seen there, working there or not?
I would say during the 2020 era, I think it was the second show that they had because the Grand Ole Opry is the world's longest running radio broadcast and show. And so there was a show with Brad Paisley, Vince Gill, and Marty Stewart, just acoustic, unplugged on these stools 6 feet away from each other. And that was one of my favorite shows of all time. And I was not there, I was listening to it from home, but just the stories that they shared and the songs that they played, that was really, really special.
You know, it's so cool, and I know there's a lot of things that are challenging about running social for brands, but man, we get to do some cool stuff. I mean, we really do. Now, I'm not saying there aren't hard moments. There are hard moments. There's challenging moments about this career, but man, we've all had those moments where we're sitting and we get to do this for a living. I remember we opened Harry Potter or the Diagon Alley, the second phase of Harry Potter, and we had a whole social media engagement center. And I was like, I can't believe this is what I get to paid to do. And so, like, I just think it's fun that so many social media professionals get to kind of, have these life moments within their career. What was your biggest learning, when you're at the Grand Ole Opry? There's a lot of live events that you have to cover, and a lot of social media professionals don't know what that's like. Like the sports industry knows it a ton, right? The sports, I think they do it best in class. They've got to plan it. But what are the things that you learned for covering social for a brand that was so big into live events and music?
Yeah, I would definitely say I worked really hard to plan ahead for how I was gonna tell the story of every event and every show that happened there, but I also was really mindful to just leave room for magic. There are so many moments and things that happen there that you just can't plan for, so being flexible and adaptable and knowing that this is sort of my rough plan of what I wanna share, but I'm also going to share some things that I don't know are gonna happen yet. That was really key because those were the moments that I feel like really connected with the fans and artists a lot, and that was something that immediately was apparent to me, and I carried throughout.
So take me inside of a war room of a night, right? Like I get the planning ahead. I've had a chance to read and talk to a lot of people that do all the, there's an unsexy side of social, which is so important to make the sexy side happen. But what does a live event look like? Or, what does it look like leading up to it? How long are the days? Kind of bring us inside a little bit to that environment.
Yeah, it definitely depends on what type of event, whether it's, a venue opening, which I was a part of several at that company, which is a lot of planning in advance months and then also having really, firm and thought out plans leading up to it too. So it's a lot of for sure long days, long hours with that. And then, the event I feel like just goes so quickly. You spend so much time in the planning phase and then it happens and you're in it and you've been planning for it for months. So it kind of depended on the event for me, but really was a lot of work and a lot of thoughtfulness and creativity and really caring so much about what that looks like. And then also not forgetting to have fun. And really be in the moment with the fans because that's going to come through in your content and that's going to really, be something that people pick up on social.
I love that. One of the things I'd say, kudos to you is you really built something I think special from not a lot, right? When you were at the Grand Ole Opry, and I know you're kind of redoing that, again at the airport. Um, a lot of people that are at stages of their career as a social media professional, whatever it is, whether you're an intern, a copywriter, a community manager, a coordinator, right? And then at some point you're wanting to grow and you're wanting to do more things. And you were able to really take the reins and build something at another level. What were the unlocks that you didn't understand as a younger professional that you had to understand when you were trying to build something and lead something?
I would say for sure the ability to drive a business on social media and you've been very kind in, the words of, what you've shared for me. I will say there was no way any of that was going to be possible without the incredible leadership and team that I had there. And there were so many people who really mentored me and just kind of showed me the way. And I credit a lot of the success that I had there and that my team had there with that. So I'm really proud of that. I would say 100% how to drive a business on social media and what does that look like, is something that I did not go into that company and stage of my career knowing and that I absolutely came out with, and that's been such a game changer for me. And it took every bit of the 5.5 years I was there to learn that.
I think that's totally right. Like I think the idea of a social media professional trying to find a way. I talk a lot about like how can you speak the language of the business and tie back what you're trying to do every day because it's tough. There's a lot of people that are like, we just are hanging out on Facebook all the day. We're just worried about empty likes and empty engagement. And so that's a hard thing to translate that into the business. And it continues. Like there's so many people right now that are listening. They're like, oh my God, like I am in that phase right now. And we'll talk a little bit more about kind of how do you talk to leadership and level up a little bit later. But I want to transition a little bit to the airport and talk about that transition. And I want to talk about it in one way. And I say this with all due respect, but there's a lot of people out there that have boring brands that on paper feel like a boring brand. And you got 859,000 views on 3 reels for an airport, right? And that's just like one like moment in time. And so let's talk first about mindset. Let's not talk about tactics. Let's talk about mindset. What mindset did you have to have as you came into the airport to say, how do I make people care about an airport? And we have a fun airport here, by the way, in Orlando. And so I love airport social. But what kind of mindset did you have to think about how do I build an audience? How do I entertain at a place like an airport?
Yeah, I was so excited to find the opportunity, and because I feel like I am such a builder on social, for me, it felt like a playground opportunity, and I'm really lucky that my leader there is so excited about creativity, and she's really open to new ideas, and so I honestly really took it and felt like I've been working in entertainment, and the airport is my show, and the things that happen there are the different acts, and I've been trying to put an entertainment spin on it, which has been really fun and really exciting. And so I really looked at it as like, what an awesome opportunity to get to go and build again and really get gritty on social in a way that I hadn't in a long time. And it's just been so much fun.
It's funny because there's a lot of brands that are like cool and sexy, but you can't do as much with them. And then you go to a brand, and we have some clients that we work with like this that are like, just have fun. Like the world is your oyster. Make us interesting, make us compelling. And those sometimes can be more fun because you have more freedom to kind of play around with them. So then let's talk about it. You had almost 900,000 views on a few reels that I talked about. You've had a bunch of successes. Congratulations, by the way, on the nomination for the Plot Awards. Like that's so cool. Um, but what I'd love to know is like, how are you really thinking about the content strategy and what got those reels to kind of pop off? What are you learning that your audience is interested in?
Yeah, I would say really the behind the scenes of the airport. I think that everyone in this community obviously knows about SBN and knows that we're here and hopefully considers to fly out of SBN when they're looking to travel. But I really wanted to take people behind the scenes to see what the operations look like. That was something that really hadn't been done to that degree before. So it's really just been, hey, operations, which has been so lovely, has just taken me out on the airfield because we know that these planes are coming in or these helicopters are coming in. And so it's been really looking at what the community likes to see, which are the cool planes that we get and the different things that are happening and really giving them that first person perspective like they're there on the airfield themselves.
Yeah, I think that there's like this like idea of like there's storytelling everywhere, right? For every brand, you have someone that cares about you and they care about you for a reason. You quoted, I think, Rachel Carton one time when she said, "Your ordinary is your audience's extraordinary." I love that statement. I used to say back at EA Sports, when I was there, I used to say, these people that play our games, they love our games, and we own the IP. We should be the ones that are out there in front talking about all the different things that we're doing it. And that is the way to take social from brand impact from the top of the funnel down into raving fans, which we talk about was like kind of the relationship side of what a brand can build. And so I love that so much. Let's talk about partnerships inside of a company, whether it's the Grand Ole Opry or if you're at the airport. People have got to help you get a camera inside of a machine that's cleaning snow off of the tarmac, right? People have got to help you get behind the scenes of a show to talk to a talent. How important is building those relationships internally? And how have you found a way to do that? Because without that connection, a lot of times the social media team can't do what they want. I used to think about sports a lot and think about, man, there was a day where they had no access to the players, and now they have tons of access to the players. But it was partnerships and relationships that made that happen. So, how have you been able to build relationships internally that's helped you do awesome storytelling on social?
Yeah, I would say the first thing has been trust first and foremost and being genuine and showing that, this is a partnership. I know that several times when I've worked with partners, I've shared the results of the content with them and said, like, this wouldn't be possible without you. And I really appreciate your partnership. So I think those relationships, when people trust you, they know you're not just walking around with your camera. I always try to make people feel comfortable and really like level set. Here's what I'm here to do. Like, is there anything that, we need to change or you wouldn't feel comfortable with? Anything like that. I always consider the people before the content, and there has been times, in the time that I've worked in entertainment where sometimes I would change what I was doing on the fly because I could tell someone wasn't super comfortable or wasn't having the best day, and, for me, it always came first with the people and the partners, and when you have those good relationships, it always results in better time filming the content and hopefully better content as well.
Yeah, I mean, when we were at Universal, I mean, it was just hundreds of people across the entire, I mean, now they've got 4 theme parks, and just trying to get a post up or get a photo taken or get in time with talent or with a character, and it was a lot of work. And to be honest, there's a lot of people still in those seats today that think that's the frustrating work, and they think that's why can't we just go do this and why can't we just go do that? And it's just not the way it works in these large brands. And the moment you accept it, I think I said one time on LinkedIn, I said you've got to make your legal department your best friend. Like that's your goal. It's the same thing with operators. You got to make the operational team your best friends. And I think the takeaway from what you just said that I love the best, which is like show them how it's performing or show them how the fans are reacting. Show them some comments that get them excited about what you're doing. I think that's a really, really, really important takeaway.
Yeah, and I would say at the airport too, like when I was going in and I was starting to film with people, that wasn't the most comfortable thing for them. But now seeing how they're performing, they're excited about it and they're really proud of what it looks like and they want to be part of it, which is awesome.
I'll transition here because I think it's a perfect segue into managing up and getting buy-in and getting influence, because I think this is what we're kind of talking about is this right now, right? The second people start talking about the performance of social, I loved working with Jen and the team, that stuff starts to float around. So maybe that's one example, but one of the hardest things that social media managers deal with, and sadly we've both felt this at times in our career, is it's small, it's less than, it's nice to have. You don't get the resources, you're underfunded, you've got junior employees. and they don't get the opportunity. I oftentimes kind of describe brand social as the iceberg, and it's not just a little thing that you see tipping above the water. It's all that this huge opportunity below the water. And it's up to people like me and you, passionate leaders, that have to go tell that story, and I've got to go, kind of take decks up the hallway and convince and report out. What has been some of your biggest successful tactics in trying to get buy-in from leadership that maybe was on the fence, and maybe even a B to that? Tell me some of the things you just didn't work. I don't want to out any leaders, but like, where were there times that it's just like, yeah, we didn't get there? Because I think on podcasts like this, a lot of time it's all the wins, but there's a lot of losses along the way as you get those wins. So tell me some stuff that really worked, and tell me some moments that were hard, and you're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many of those that I can think of. I think that I've been really, really fortunate in my career to sort of have these, unicorn experiences where I have worked for people who have really valued social and who have made significant investments and have been like, you know what, go do it. And I'm going to cheer you on from right here. So I do feel really fortunate that that's been majority of my experience. I will say when I first was in, my first job out of college, I was working for a company doing social media. We had like no budget, no team. We're sort of building this from the ground up. And it was me and another girl. And we sort of put our heads together and we were like, you know what? We're gonna like pull out every stop we have to get the resourcing to do this. And we did. We made the case to get a social media prop budget. And then by the time that I was leaving that company when I was moving to Nashville, she went on to have like a pretty sizable budget and did really incredible work there, which was awesome to see. So I think wins like that are important. I think there have been times where maybe you have these big hopes and dreams for social. I think we're huge dreamers, and then like operationally that's just not going to work, or things like that. So I think that I worked on a brand called Old Red, which is a partnership with Blake Shelton and Ryman Hospitality Opry Entertainment, and that was such an awesome brand to work for. But I was a big dreamer and I wanted to do all these things, and sometimes operationally it doesn't work out, really just because of logistics. But it was really awesome to still see that there were some wins that we could have there despite, sometimes me being a big unrealistic dreamer.
Never stop dreaming, Jen. Never. That's what makes you great. A couple of things that I jotted down as you were talking, like the importance of social pros having a positive mindset, being creative problem solvers, right? Like that's the whole idea. Is you're being given something small and you made a plan. And the last one is like, be ready to make business cases. Like that is the thing. You have to go fight and tell the story, not in a negative way, but in a stand up for yourself and stand up for your team way. And so I think that's so cool. There was a post that you put on LinkedIn a while back that I loved, and I think there's a lot of people. I think you're a good dreamer, but I think you're a great operator, and I think people want to know, what are those steps, those frameworks to kind of build a channel or build a brand from the ground up.
Yeah, I love that you pulled that post out actually, because I am working on a presentation for this for the Social Fresh conference in New York in March. And this is specifically what they asked me to present on. So that's so cool that that resonated with you. I think everyone has started a social job and just been handed the passwords and been like, okay, go post. I think that's a universal experience in this industry. So when I was growing a team and became a leader, I really, really wanted to just give a really great onboarding experience. I also think that when you onboard someone with just all of that information, it has like the opportunity then for you to scale quicker and not only set someone up for success, but just in general, I think my former team would tell you if you got a Jenn Crim binder, that thing is still on your desk today. I would say the first thing is really just, again, that sort of job description, having like a 30, 60, 90-day roadmap, just giving someone the expectations that you have for them up front, I think is so key. And then I also think just the past activation, documentation, whether it was, hey, this is what we did for this grand opening or this special show or whatever, having the opportunity to then review that when you're coming onto a new brand, I think is completely invaluable. And I saw really great success with being able to onboard people and then them really being able to hit a home run for those events when they would come to them because they had that information.
Yeah, you know what? I used to tell people all the time whenever they were starting a new gig, you want instant credibility, look like you have your crap together. Like just look like you have your crap together. Like, but understanding frameworks like this and then be able to kind of go back and kind of communicate this out to leadership, I mean, instant credibility inside of the organization. And so I love that that post. And I'm excited to hear what's happening in Social First. I thought about going to Social First. It's been a while. I was on a panel a long time ago there in Orlando. A couple other things I want to get into before we let you go. Social media manager, creative strategist. I want to talk to you because I feel like you've done one and you've done the other. Neither one of them is higher in a hierarchy. They're actually kind of different. One's very role, one is very skill based. But I want to hear you talk about what the difference of that is in your mind, and really what does it take to become a really great creative strategist? Because my take is I can teach you tactically how to be a social media manager. A creative strategist is something that takes taste, it takes strategic mindset, it takes the desire to learn and to discover. But I don't know if I've ever called myself a creative strategist, and so I'm interested in kind of your take on it all.
Yeah, I would say, I've been in this industry long enough that I've seen the titles evolve, I've seen the jobs evolve, I've seen the job descriptions evolve. And so, really, I think that I've gotten to where I am in my career and sort of in my skill set just by constantly adapting and solving and being resourceful. And so the social media manager piece, I feel like that is a little bit more operational to me of like you're, scheduling things out, you're sort of monitoring how things are going. And again, that looks different at every company. But that to me feels more operational. The creative strategist, I feel like, has come into play with just thinking about what is my end goal here? What results am I going to get from these posts? Or what type of actions am I trying to see my audience take? Or what do I want people to immediately think of when they see our brand on social media? So that's been something I think I've gone more into, kind of out of necessity over the last couple years, but it's been a really, really great opportunity to then now in my current role take both of them and put them together. And that's where I've been having a lot of fun.
I love that, and I think that you can't be a brand builder without being a creative strategist in this industry, because you've gotta understand brand, channel, audience, you gotta understand timing, you gotta understand, what it takes to build an audience, and you gotta have a point of view, and you gotta have taste, and that takes time of consuming and applying and learning and failing, and so I love that. This next one's a little more tactical because I've seen some of the stuff you guys are doing at the airport, and, there's a lot of conversations around unhinged, social or the old kind of Wendy's, kind of clapback social. Um, but there's also been this other thing that I think's been around for a while. It's hard to name it. I want you to name it because I don't know what to call it. I call it kind of mixed media social. It's like this, like, it's not just memes though. It's memes mixed with graphics, mixed with lo-fi, mixed with quotes from movies sometimes. Um, I wanna and it's always in my mind. Well, I don't wanna answer the question for you. I wanna ask you, why do you think this what do you call this? What do you call this bucket? And why do you think it's so important, to a social strategy?
I would say to me, I would call it almost this universal appeal. And I think the way that that has sort of come into the mix is because people's behavior on social media has changed. We used to see just everyone sharing their own, things they were doing and things they want to share with their friends and family. And now, as we've seen social media evolve and develop into creating brands, not just for companies, but also for yourself, people aren't sharing as much personally anymore. And so now I think people are going on social media and they're seeing the meme that, hey, that reminds me of my friend Megan, and I'm going to send that to her. That reminds me of my brother in law or whoever. So brands are trying to sort of dip into that behavior that people are using on social media now. And I think that's why we're seeing this sort of mixed media, universal experience and appeal become really popular because of that's how it's, sort of developing and unfolding in real time.
I love it, and by the way, that is what a creative strategist sounds like, that is the description, crazy and the other thing I'd just say is it's also, like, it's hard to teach. It's so it's such a, like, you need, like, people that just have, like, very interesting kind of, like, backgrounds and cultural histories and interests and passions, and culture and creative taste to pull these things together. It's why you see creators doing so well with this stuff because it's not a a finger on the nose of something that is just like an easy like piece of content. But I love it, and I'm excited to kind of see more of it. All right, last two questions. This is where I cue the sad music. No, I'm just kidding. Don't cue sad music. I want to talk about the hardest thing about this gig because I know um, there's some fun stuff, there's some hard stuff. I also think that like just between you and I think social media professionals complain too much on LinkedIn. I just gotta say it, like there's a lot worse jobs out there to have. I know wearing a lot of hats is difficult. I know you want to be paid the right wage, and I totally stand for all of that. But I also think that what we do is pretty awesome, and I love the career I've been able to have, telling brand stories and using social and having to kinda adapt it, but it doesn't mean that there's not big challenges, and I'd love to hear what's been the hardest part of your journey, and what did you learn from it that maybe you were surprised that you needed to learn, that someone else behind you might be coming up the same way?
I think that the first thing I would say is I was a team of 1 for a really long time. So I had several jobs where it was just me doing social media, and I think that I sort of was like, "This is the industry. You're just a team of 1 forever, and that's all you have." And it wasn't until 2020 happened, and I don't know if you were part of marketing Twitter, but that was a huge thing then, and I started to meet all these other social media professionals, and I realized, oh my gosh, even if I'm a team of 1, it doesn't mean I have to be, like, the only person doing this, and now I have a really great peer network that I feel like I would just not be in the same place if I didn't have. I would also say that sometimes you get so attached to an idea or a dream or something you wanna do, and you're like, "I'm gonna see this all the way through." And sometimes when someone says no, you just have to accept that it's a no, and you have to move on, and you have to adapt. And I wish that I had learned that and accepted that earlier in my career. And I also think I wish, like, in the beginning of my journey that I had been the social media professional that I looked up to. I really wish that I had been more, like, emulative of those types of people, and that's something that I work towards every day, but
I think that's a little unfair to yourself because that's part of your journey. It is. It really is. Right? Like the idea of saying, "I wish I was more mature. I could handle these things
Yeah.
better
I mean, it's
emotionally."
just you don't know what you don't know, and you're learning in real time, and, especially at that time.
Yeah, that's part of going through it. And so what I would say is like, by the way, I relate to the wish, but I also just want to reinforce that like those journeys are what shape us into who we are, and we can't jump forward in our journey. We have to experience it to become the people we're supposed to be. That's a whole other podcast. But I think it's really important. I think, but the second one you said, I wanted to talk about that for a second because I think that you hit on something that I've never talked about on the podcast, and I whenever I finally left Universal, I wanted so badly. I was so emotionally attached to making that brand matter. I wanted so badly to defeat Disney, and we did some really cool stuff. Um, but I didn't feel like I finished the job, at least the job at what my eyes thought was success. And that was a hard transition. I knew my time was done, and I was excited to build Maverick, and we, and I was hanging out with my old boss last night for a moment, so it's great times there. Actually, I'll be there tonight, which is funny enough. We're going for Rock the Universe concert, but but yeah, there's a lot of times that social media professionals get their identity mixed in their job, probably more than a lot of jobs. And so I think that you called that out is really important, and to find a way to separate, that because a lot of times people talk about healthy boundaries when it just comes to, like, work ethic and how many hours, and that's good too, but that's not the stuff that tripped me up. I didn't mind working hard. It was the identity stuff.
Something that I don't know I've seen other people talk about a lot too is, like, when your whole system is wired that success is the amount of likes you get, the amount of comments you get, what your engagement looks like, it's very easy to mix that together. And that was definitely a journey that I had to go on in this career of separating that, and I think that when I did that, I also did some of my best work I ever did, and hopefully I'll continue to do that too, but that's definitely something I think should be talked about more.
Well, we've gone long, but I wanted to ask you because you mentioned it. You're so involved in the community. You like to go do talks. You like to do teachings. You do a lot of teachings on your own. Where does that come from? What part of your heart does that come from?
Well, I was raised by a teacher and a small business owner, so I would credit it to them, and I think, being a teacher's child, you see so much of that mentorship naturally happen, and you see so much of that, in your own home, and so I've really had a heart for that. I would love to be a teacher one day, and I love teaching and mentoring, and, yeah, I think that's where that comes from.
Jen, this has been so fun. Very different than our last chat in the best way. I know so many people are going to learn from this. our goal here at Radical Content is to obviously talk about brands and to kind of share the stories that they're telling, but it's also to highlight and celebrate the people that are inside, with the good and the battles that they're doing, because it's an awesome career, and but it can also sometimes feel like you're a team of one. By the way, that's a podcast, a social media podcast called Team of One. That's its own podcast. But yeah, thanks for the time today. It was so much fun.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for the work that you do. It's important.
Oh, thanks for that. All right, episode 44 of Radical Content in the books. More just like this, and it sounds like you can go to Social Fresh and check out Jenn Crim in a little bit. She's also a great follow on LinkedIn, but appreciate it. Remember, share this with your team. More importantly, share with your boss. Maybe they'll listen to what you're saying. But thanks for the time, everybody. We'll see you.